What's going on, everyone? I'm ATRon The Gamer, and in this video I'm going to be doing a patch 1.0.3 design preview review, as this is a new patch that's supposed to be implemented into Diablo 3 by the end of the month of June of 2012. Today is June 6, 2012, so we should be looking at that in the relatively near future here. So just keep in mind that all of this is going to be subject to change, but for the most part this is probably what we're going to be looking at as far as changes that are going to be incoming for Diablo 3. So let's go ahead and jump right into this, and let's start with the first thing, which is the drop rates in regards to gear that has the item level of 61 to 63, which I believe 63 is the highest level of item gear you can acquire in this game at the current time. So the way the game is currently set up, you can get item level 61 gear out of Act 1 on Inferno and below. You can get item level 62 gear out of Act 2 on Inferno and below. And you can get item level 63 gear and below from Act 3 and 4 on Inferno. And that's basically where you're going to find the best gear. Item level 63 gear should basically be the best that you can possibly get, as long as you get the best itemization on it as well. But what's really interesting is, in the changes, as you can see, the percentages that are on your screen right now, is basically that you were not capable of getting item level 63 or 62 gear out of Inferno Act 1 before, and you were not capable of getting item level 63 gear out of Inferno Act 2. So now there are those chances there. Those are some I think that's probably the most key thing that we can take away from this specific change. Also note, I'm not sure what the drop rates were before, but obviously they did put something up in regards to Hell Act 3 and 4. You can now acquire item level 61 gear and item level 62 gear. Obviously the chances aren't that high. Even for the item level 63 gear, they aren't that high. But even in Act 3 and 4, your chances are still quite low, as it's only 8%. Obviously that is better than Act 2 and Act 1, but considering Act 1 is significantly easier, the chances of being able to get item level 63 gear seems pretty nice to me for anybody that is just repeatedly farming Act 1. But that is basically it for the drop rates. Let's move on to the next thing on the list. And the next thing that we're going to be talking about are Legendaries and how they currently stand. They are basically not the best items in the game, but what Blizzard is looking to do is change that, perhaps. Not in this patch, but at some point in the future, they would like to alter Legendaries to be some of the better items in the game. They want to make it so that Legendaries are better than Blues, and I agree with that. Right now I use a blue weapon mainly because no legendary can really compete with how much DPS I get from that blue weapon. So it would be nice to see items such as legendaries, which seem to be the hardest to acquire out of anything else, be some of the better items in the game. It would make sense to me, as they are hard to acquire. But let's move away from that and let's talk about the incoming changes to Nephilim Valor and how it affects boss drops once you have 5 stacks. So as it currently stands, if you kill the boss, you are guaranteed to get at least 2 rares if you have 5 stacks on your character. Obviously, you can only have 5 stacks in Nephilim Valor if you're level 60, but right now, as I said, you get 2 guaranteed rares if you have 5 stacks in Nephilim Valor. The change is going to be implemented from the next patch in regards to the Nephilim Valor 5 stacks and getting guaranteed rares, is you're only going to be guaranteed 1 rare off of the bosses. And when I say bosses, and when I said it before, I was talking about uniques, basically mobs like the Butcher or Belial or Asmodon or Diablo, basically obviously all the end act bosses, and I'm pretty sure talking about bosses such as the Warden from Act 1 or Magda from Act 2 or Zoltan Kuhl from Act 2 as well. So you're guaranteed 2 rares right now as it stands if you kill any of those and you have 5 stacks in Nephilim Valor. The change that's going to be implemented in the next patch is that you're only going to be gaining 1 guaranteed rare from any of those bosses if you have 5 stacks in Nephilim Valor. So obviously there's still the chance to get multiple rares, not just that guaranteed 1 or the guaranteed 2 as of right now. But the other change that's going to be implemented is that any set of champs or rares is going to drop a guaranteed rare as well. So in the new patch, that is. Right now that's not the case. You can get nothing off of champs and rares, but you're going to be getting a guaranteed rare basically no matter what, as long as you have 5 stacks in the new patch. So I think this is pretty cool. This is probably going to change up some of the farming methods that are going on in today's game, or at least today's metagame. I would think so anyway. But we'll see how that goes, and obviously take a look at that more so when that change is implemented. But let's move away from Nephilim Valor, and we're going to talk about the next thing, which is how monsters' damage is going to be affected based on how many players are in each game. So as it stands right now, if you play alone, the monster's damage is going to be at its lowest point, and the more people you gain in your game, the more damage the monsters are going to gain as well. But that's something that they're looking to change and just completely remove in this upcoming patch. So they're basically, what it seems to me is that there's going to be a set damage for all the monsters in the game, as when you have other players join, they are not going to gain strength in that sense. But I'm sure that health is probably going to remain unchanged just in terms of scaling and how many players are in the game, but damage from them is going to just be constant, is what it looks like to me, which I think is pretty interesting. It's probably going to make things a bit easier. I would say there's a bit of an incentive to play in a group now. Probably feel that it's going to affect some areas quite well, in other areas it's not going to have much of effect at all, but that's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty cool. Definitely an incentive to go play with a group of other people. But let's move away from that, and the next thing we're going to be talking about are the balances that are going to be brought to the Inferno difficulty, Act 2 to Act 4. As it seems, they are basically content, Blizzard that is, with how difficult Act 1 Inferno is. They aren't going to change that at all, but it looks like they're going to be nerfing the difficulty of Act 2 through 4, so Act 2 through 4 should be quite a bit easier. I'm not sure how much, obviously, but we'll see what those changes are when it hits in the upcoming patch, so that's pretty interesting. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Moving on to the next item on the list, we're going to be talking about repairs and how they currently are and how they're looking to be affected by this next patch. So as it currently stands, repair bills don't seem to be that terrible. Right now I have a level 60, and when I'm fully broken, it costs me about 7,000 gold to fully repair myself. I'm sure there's players that have to spend more than that, but that's just how much I have to spend. So with the change that's incoming, they're looking to multiply this value by anywhere from 4 to 6 times the value right now. So basically anywhere from 28 to 42,000 gold if I'm fully broken by the implementation of this new patch. That's pretty much going to make it so that I don't want to die often, if at all. It's going to make any hardcore playstyle of surviving very viable, because death is not going to be a very good strategy anymore for anything, whether it be for farming or whether it be for boss zerging. Just, it seems like they want to wean people away from this strategy altogether. So I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's going to make it so that nobody wants to die anymore. I'm not sure how much people are going to follow that, but anybody that's concerned about their stockpile of gold probably will abide by this change in terms of avoiding death. But let's move away from this and let's talk about the next thing. And the next thing we're going to be talking about is increased attack speed and how it currently stands and what changes are probably going to be made to it by the next patch. So as it currently stands, increased attack speed is probably the best stat for increasing your damage on any character, any class. Increased attack speed is just that good, as it just multiplies your damage outright, probably more exponentially than anything else. But they don't want this. Blizzard is fed up with this. They don't want this to be the be-all, end-all stat. So in order to do this, they're going to nerf increased attack speed, and they're going to do this in one of two ways. The first way they're talking about nerfing it is reducing the value on all of the items to the desired value of Blizzard. The other way is make it so that the way increased attack speed stacks basically diminishes over time. So the more you have, the less you're getting over time. So I'm hoping that they go with the first one, which is actually what they are planning on doing, it seems. As they say that at the bottom of this note, that they are leaning towards the first solution. But we'll see what happens. It looks like they're still open to suggestions and ideas, and that might change, but we'll see what happens there. But let's move away from that and let's move on to the next thing. And the next thing we're going to be talking about that's on the list is the changes that are going to be made in regards to gems and their prices when upgrading them. So the changes that are going to be implemented only apply to flawed through flawless square gems. Anything after this will not be affected, so perfect square and above will remain unchanged as far as their prices go. But as you can see, making anything up to flawless has been completely just cut in tenfold, to the point where you have fractions of the gold that you're paying for in the upcoming patch as opposed to now. So that is quite a substantial cut if you ask me, the biggest being the flawless square from 20,000 gold all the way down to 100 gold, which is just nuts. But that is pretty nice for anybody who is trying to make flawless squares, and anything below that obviously kind of sucks for the people that have already made those gems, but that's just the way that goes. I wouldn't be surprised to see the perfect square and above gems prices reduced in the future, but we'll see what happens there. But moving on to the next item on the list, I'm going to be talking about classes and the changes that we can expect for the next patch. So Blizzard hasn't really provided too much information on this. Really, it seems that they only want to make character changes, or at least significant character changes, in patch 1.1, so we can expect that then. Obviously this is patch 1.0.3, but what we can expect, it seems, is some small skill changes. So definitely keep an eye out for those, but obviously not a whole lot is going to be changed in regards to characters in the upcoming patch. And the last thing that we can see from the preview notes that Blizzard has released is to basically talk about some improvements that they're probably going to make to the auction house, and some quality of life enhancements, as well as some other fixes and some other changes that they don't really mention what they are. They don't really go into too much detail in this portion, but that's just some things we can expect. But that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Hope you all had something to gain from listening to the patch preview notes that I've been talking about. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to me on my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at ATRon The Gamer. If you like this video, please click the like button. Hope to see everyone next time for more Diablo 3. Until that time, I am ATRon The Gamer. Later, everyone.